I do want to bring in Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at George Mason University's Scalia Law School. As I mentioned here, a lot to talk about. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Absolutely, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And I want to kind of break down everything that I just talked about here with a lot of the different headlines. Now, the big one here, the UAE launching strikes there on Iran. Can you explain to me the significance of that information and the fact that we're talking about a refinery location in Iran?
Well, obviously, at some level, an unprecedented scenario here. You've seen Iran striking the Emirates a number of times over the course of this conflict unnecessarily. The UAE has not attacked Iran. Certainly, U.S. bases in the region and coordination centers, including in the Emirates, are being utilized for this conflict. But Iran has been attacking civilian facilities and the like, and now the Emirates are finally striking back. That suggests that they are either more effectively joining the U.S. coalition, joining this effort to fight Iran. We've obviously known there's been a long time rivalry and disagreement. Iran has sponsored attacks across the Middle East, including against Israel, including our Sunni Arab allies. But this is the first time you're seeing one of the Gulf Arab states engaged in direct action against the Iranians. And so this, I think, is in some ways unprecedented, but perhaps not surprising, given that Iran, unprovoked, at least unprovoked against the Emiratis, struck out at them at the beginning of this conflict.
Also want to talk about the situation there with Kuwait, because just coming in a few hours ago here, we were getting some information from Kuwaiti officials about this situation with the IRGC. 6 men, they're affiliated with the IRGC, 4 of them taken into custody after this failed attack on an island there. Explain to me kind of the significance of that, because we hear a lot about Kuwait and kind of the ties to this situation. But explain to me, and for folks out there, what all of that really means and the significance.
Yeah. So this island, Bubiyan Island, is a strategically important asset, and it's not surprising. We've seen the Iranians and their Revolutionary Guards Quds Force, which is their elite unit of the Revolutionary Guards, going into places like this. Bahrain, for example, just convicted a dozen people of conspiring with IRGC to conduct activities in Bahrain. And we're now seeing similar activities in Kuwait. As you point out, 6 men involved with the Quds Force. They're accused of infiltrating the island to conduct operations, potentially destructive operations. We don't know for sure. We don't have the details of what Kuwait is charging them with yet. 4 of them captured, to your point. 2 of them escaped. But this is not a surprising thing that Iran is engaged in. Iran has long engaged in malign activities across the region. And what it demonstrates is that even though our military action under Operation Epic Fury against Iran has significantly harmed their naval capabilities, has harmed their missile launch and drone launch capabilities, they are still conducting operations around the globe, particularly in the region, against our allies, strategically important allies, large oil producers and the like. And this is obviously deeply troubling and perhaps unsurprising. The challenge here is that Iran, in theory, is in a ceasefire with us. We have stopped attacking them, but they have failed to do any part of their ceasefire. They have not opened up the Strait of Hormuz. They are continuing to conduct bilateral operations against our allies. They're continuing to fund Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and they still have that 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, Josh. So the real truth of the matter is Iran hasn't done any of its part. The U.S. is doing all of its part. We've now instituted a blockade against them, against their ports. That's obviously creating pressure on them. Inflation is up in Iran. But we need to now really put the pressure on. And the challenge, of course, for us, Josh, as you know, is the president's going to China today. He wants to do a deal with President Xi, but President Xi is supportive of Iran because they're one of their key allies in the region and a key oil supplier for them.
And right now you're looking at a post from our buddy Lucas Tomlinson over at Fox News. Kuwait says it stopped a planned attack by 4 members of Iran's IRGC trying to infiltrate an island north of Kuwait City. As we mentioned, 2 of them remain at large. Now, another big topic that's been discussed over the last 24 hours, we brought you a news conference here with President Trump, and reporters had a lot to ask him essentially about the ceasefire itself and the fact that Iran had seemingly said the proposal put forth by the U.S. was not good enough. They essentially put forth some of their own ideas, and President Trump said that the ceasefire there is on life support. He also called the proposal from Iran garbage. What does that say to you? What stands out to you about the comments there made by President Trump and the future of that ceasefire?
Well, look, I mean, the challenge, of course, is that we've known that Iran doesn't want to actually do the things we want them to do. They don't want to give up the nuclear program. They don't want to stop supporting terrorism. They don't want to keep. They don't want to stop oppressing their own people. They don't want to stop doing malign activities in the region. We know that Iran doesn't want to do these things. And our hope and the president's effort was to put pressure on them to do all of those things. And unfortunately, it appears that even with all the bombing we've done, all the military action we've taken against Iran, they still they still appear to be unwilling to do those things. And now the president's going to be at a decision point. He's going to have to decide, do I do a deal with Iran that is not as good as I want, that is not substantial, that doesn't solve all the major things that I've raised about Iran? Or do I put pressure back on them by either forcing the Strait of Hormuz reopened, by sending, escorting ships through that region? We've talked about doing that. We talked about doing that about a week ago. The president announced we were going to do that. We stepped back from that to try and allow negotiations to play out. He may decide to go forward with that. He may also decide we need to restart bombing Iran and attacking them because they are not doing their part in the ceasefire, and they're continuing to go after our Gulf Arab allies. So the president's probably at a decision point, though, Josh, that's made harder by the fact that he's going to try and do a deal with President Xi, who is in the Iranian camp. And so how you make all those chess pieces line up, I think is going to be a very hard thing for the president. But he's right to call their response to the proposal garbage, because we know the idea that the U.S. would pay reparations, the idea that the U.S. would recognize sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz for Iran, which is an international waterway, we will never do that. And the idea that they would be able to continue to maintain the ability to enrich uranium and keep their highly enriched uranium, those things are all laughable. And we're not going to do those things. And the president should not accept that. That would be worse than the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, which the president rightly got rid of. And so we'll see what happens going forward. But the president should not accept any of these things. I think he's saying the right thing by calling their response to our proposal garbage.
All right, Jamil Jaffer, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I'm sure we'll have you back again soon, as there is so much developing there out of the Middle East. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.